Okay, so what I'm queuing up now um, is clearly, whoops, what just happened? There we go. It's from Black Power Media. Um, I want to close this. Hold on. And they put this up today, and we're not going to watch the whole thing. It's actually a fantastic, fantastic 2-hour video. Discussion with Daruba bin Wahad discusses Judas and the Black Messiah. And it really discusses so much more than just Judas and the Black Messiah. It really, really gets into some crucially important history in relation to the Panther Party and so much more. I really, really, really recommend you go check this video out. It's over at Black Power Media. But there was a portion of it that really stood out to me that I thought I would like to share with you because it's in relation to, I think there's a lot of new leftists and liberals out there that are having trouble differentiating between sort of black nationalism or maybe even black capitalism and the differences between what the Panthers were doing, and can maybe, especially with some of people that kind of look like me, tend to get into the overly critical camp of those types of ideologies. Like I said, like black nationalism, which I think is really, really inappropriate. Let's just come out straight. If you're a white person, watch how you're fucking critical or criticizing black nationalism or black capitalism. Okay? These are colonized people, not colonizers, like white nationalists. The two are not the same in any way whatsoever. And the reason I wanted to cue this up, and I'm not sure if I've got it right, I might have to tweak around a little bit with exactly, finding the right spot. Actually, I think this is it. This is it. But the reason I want to highlight this is because I think the discussion that this veteran Panther and Dr. Jared Ball have really, really highlights the nuances and the perplexities and the individual diversity of those that comprise the revolutionary community of the Panthers and black nationalists at the time, and shows how these things don't exist as monoliths, right? And people within this community had varying ideas and opinions of these different types of manifestations. Everything, not just black nationalism or black capitalism, but also revolutionary communist emancipation, like the project that the Panthers were on. And so anyway, with all that said, I just thought that this discussion did such a good job of, there was much I learned about from this brief portion of it, and the whole thing in general, but from this about it showed me so much about how this can be framed in a way that's respectful, but not, but clear-eyed, I think, in a lot of ways. You may not agree with everything that's expressed herein, and that's okay, but this, if you look like me, like I said, if you're white, I'm part Latinx, but I present white, and I have a lot of white privilege, and there was just much that showed me that the power in, shutting up and listening, which I think is exactly what I'm going to do right now. So check it out, fam. Again, this is from Black Power Media. The video is Daruba bin Wahad discusses Judas and the Black Messiah. And so Jared Ball is reading questions from a BuzzFeed piece, just kind of going through their questions and then letting Daruba bin Wahad give his kind of thoughts and perspective on that framing of the question. And so here we go.
Ability to move his people
back up just a little bit.
That don't
upper shields, you see. So I don't take what Bobby Rush has to say seriously. He was always a punk. He was scared straight ever since Fred was murdered. He had that frightened deer look in his face.
So I'll leave that as context. You got to go watch this whole thing. But here's the question. And here we go.
I wanted you to address, because I think you somewhat mentioned it in one of your part of your opening comments, but one of the more powerful moments, according to BuzzFeed, was when Deborah Johnson tells Fred he's a poet. And if I remember correctly, that's specifically after she sort of politely chastises him for demeaning a brother in a dashiki. And at the beginning of the film, which is meant to quickly summarize what is popularly, I think, overly simplified as the beef between the Black Panther Party and either the US organization or cultural nationalism in general. So she's pointing out he's a poet and has the ability to move his people in ways that don't demean them should he choose. And again, whatever my biases may be, I have never appreciated the way that popular culture depicts that those differences. And I didn't like the way this film did that. But what do you think about that particular depiction of this clash, as it's often described, between the Panthers and us, or Panthers and cultural nationalism, or how it might have been depicted in this film, if you or others would agree with my quick summary of the scene?
I think it's bullshit. Let me say this. Like I said, every region had its own development. We look at how Black folks came to California. How did they get there during World War II? They came to work the Navy yards. They came to help build the Pacific Fleet and the fight against Japan. That's how Oakland came to be a predominantly Black enclave. That's how all of the Bay Area got its Black population. And they mainly came from places like Louisiana, Texas, and the South. And the crackers that became the police came from those places too. Okay? So there was a particular type of development there. Southern California and California never really had a serious a cultural, nationalist, and Pan-African centered movements. They were not that type of center like Philadelphia or New York or Chicago or DC on the East Coast, okay? And so a lot of folks in California at that time had a certain type of ambivalence, especially when Huey when Huey first encountered them over the security for Betty Shabazz. That's a classic encounter where the cultural nationalists showed up with empty guns. You see, they were fronting.
Security for Sister Betty Shabazz has got to be tight.
Go inside! Now!
What would you tell young brothers and sisters to do in following Brother Malcolm's footsteps?
Well, I would say that Malcolm lives in each of us, and that we must all work together for the community, like those brothers out there are doing.
Well, Sister Shabazz, we wanted to thank you, and we are definitely honored that you have chosen San Francisco for your first public appearance since the martyrdom of Malcolm. Sister, do you feel the fervor of the movement was lost with the death of Malcolm?
No, the thirst for freedom was by no means extinguished with the murder of my husband. The desire for liberty is manifested daily in the struggle.
Police is pulling up outside.
Let's look around.
All in.
Let's go, little Bobby.
I can't get caught.
Brother Huey, no pictures, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm not going. You go down there if you want to.
Look at this gun away. No, I'm not going to jail. No, hey, get cool it.
There she is. Miss Shabazz, you fear for your life. Fear for your life.
There'll be no pictures today.
Back up.
Shabazz, through. Who shot Malcolm? You think the FBI was involved? Was it a plot?
Back up, back.
Excuse me. You think Farrakhan was involved?
Back up.
Move back. Look, you're blocking our path. Hey, back up.
Get back. Get away from
Leave the sister alone, please. No pictures.
Sir, please. The last time we back up. Move out of my way. I just want to ask a question. Mr. Boz, you know who killed your husband? You're out of line. Move, man. No. Step back. Step back.
Hey, this man assaulted me. Arrest this man.
Oh, if I'm the arrest anyone, it's going to be you.
Oh, not today.
Huey, come on, man, please. Lower the guns, man. We don't want no trouble.
That's right. Put the guns away. You're a smart nigger like your friend.
We ain't broken no law. You try to violate our constitutional rights, we will defend ourselves. Pig!
Aren't you going to do anything? Like you said, asshole, they're not breaking any laws. Oh. All right, step out!
Right. All right, step back, folks. Step back.
We'll go ahead and call it in. Got it all.
Excuse me, what is Mr. Shabazz doing here?
Just bring the Panthers and dedicated to Malcolm
Please,
X.
come on.
Get some kind of a
Hey, bring him over here.
Got it. Call it in now.
Woo! Woo! That job, I'm happy to we did. Oh man, these young brothers, that's so bad. Like the damn thing.
Hey, it surprised me they even showed up with guns.
Dig it.
No.
They ain't fit for the name Panther.
Woo! Hey, what it be, Judge? I mean, nobody got hurt. I mean, Sister Betty say today was a good day, man. Cheer up.
That tall punk Panther's gun wasn't loaded. I bet you the rest of them weren't either, man.
All right, let's find out.
Brother, leader must have courage of Simba, lion. This is only the beginning.
Refreshments, Brother Bakar?
No.
Brother Bakar, you should have been there. The pigs laid down to us. We are finally getting the respect that we deserve, just like you prophesized.
Sister Alma, more libation, please.
Yes, brother.
Like I said, brother, we are the vanguard. Once Cleaver's story comes out, then you'll see.
Hey, man, what the fuck are you doing? Hey!
Malcolm X's widow's life was on the line today and your guns weren't loaded.
A gun's a gun, man. It doesn't need to be loaded.
Tell that to the pigs, or better yet, tell that to Brother Malcolm.
You wait a second.
No, you wait a second! Because you and your punk Panthers are counter-revolutionary. You got three choices. One, you merge with us, you follow our rules. Two, you change your name. Or three, we annihilate your ass.
You listen, pretty ghetto boy. You're a long way from Oakland. And you're not Malcolm. Fuck you.
You're the kind of brother we don't need. You're the kind of brother that gets other brothers killed. You need to change your name. Bakar, tell him you'll do it. Tell him you'll do it.
Okay. But only for the revolution. Help me out.
Move out! Move out! You okay,
Move out! See? This is counter-revolutionary. Like crabs in a barrel, pulling each other down.
Brother Jamal, where you going, man?
Forget him.
Brother Jamal! Get him!
And that became the idea of Panthers from the West, that black nationalists, those who had Afrocentric views, were somehow fronting. They weren't street. They weren't real. Of course, he ain't ran up on niggas like us from Harlem yet. Okay, but having said that, even when I joined the Black Panther Party, or Sekou Odinga joined the Black Panther Party, or Lumumba Shakur, look at the names of the East Coast Black Panthers. Huh? They were all African names. And I know personally in the party, when I first went out to the West Coast, that they made certain assumptions because we had African names, until I got their black asses back to Harlem, and then they could, they put that shit back in perspective. You see what I'm saying? But I'm just saying that, they didn't understand what was taking place. Having said that, then it is the reality of the counterintelligence program and how it used organizations like us and Ron Karanga to neutralize the popularity of the Black Panther Party in California, which led, to, of course, to the murder of John and Bunchy in LA. And so this and other murders, you see. And on the East Coast, this was not the same thing. And so Black nationalists on the East Coast tended to be followers of Malcolm X. And even the cultural nationalists, what we call the dashiki-wearing nationalists, they understood the value of Black armed self-defense and Black cultural identity. Black cultural identity was not used as a placebo for organization of Black people. It was used to change our core material values in a capitalist society. It was more oriented towards our history as African people being more social, being more communal. And that's how it played itself out on the East Coast. If you notice that Leroy Jones, Amiri Baraka, was a close associate of Ron Karanga and started Al-Qaeda on the East Coast. But what was the difference? Al-Qaeda and Amiri Baraka in Newark organized a movement that resulted in the first Black mayor of Newark. Okay, so this was some activist-based cultural nationalism. This wasn't no dashiki posturing. So this so-called phony dichotomy that Fred was a poet and he was demeaning somebody in the dashiki is totally bogus. You know, revolutionary nationalism, revolutionary Pan-Africanism, you can wear whatever you want. You know, it's about your relationship to the enemy. And we've always known that. Some of the best poets on the East Coast, we know, from all the way from the last poets to the brothers out of Brooklyn with Sonny Carson and his son. They were all Afrocentric, had African names. So we didn't make that type of distinction as a matter of policy. So that's bogus. But it's true that the counterintelligence program exploited that perception and used that against the Black Panther Party. For instance, many cultural nationalists, especially the academics, some of them who are prominent today, we're talking about that the Black Panther Party had white folks in it, and that we had alliances with white people, and that we were like that, and all of this stuff, and we weren't Black enough, and so this continues to this day.
You know, there's a prominent film historian and bookstore curator in D.C. who publicly berated Huey Newton and the Panthers. As he said one day in his bookstore, all Huey wanted to do was cocaine and fuck white women.
Fucking shitty thing to say.
Anyway, so I mean, this is
Who was this dude that wrote that? What was his name?
It wasn't written. It was a conversation that I was present for, and several of his film students and I guess acolytes in his bookstore.
Well, you know, I must say, there's a lot of guys like that because they were students at that time. All of these professors that used to say that now to young folks, they were students at that time. They wasn't doing jack shit on the campus, but marching around with dashikis and afros and having sisters walk 2 steps behind them, okay? They were the ones that you see today that many of them are punk-ass heads of Afro studies departments. Yeah, they punks, the intellectual masturbators. They have all of this to say about radicalism. But what was their role in the 60s? What did they actually do when the guns was drawn, when the crackers were stomping us out, when we was talking about community control of police? What was they doing? What were they doing? They were matriculating through college. They were learning about their Black self. And because we were able to lead white people to take a more radical stand against empire and against white supremacy, we were somehow only interested in sniffing blow and boning pointed heads. That's all we wanted to do. So what about the rappers today? What's their main interest? What's Jay-Z's main interest? He came up slinging, yeah.
Well, my question at the time, and still is, that's not what the counterintelligence programs thought was a threat and was targeting. If that's all the Panthers were doing, then I can't imagine.
Yeah, we would have been superfluous.
I mean, that was my point. So I just found that to be disingenuous. But it's just something that.
But I just want people to understand that the majority of intellectuals who approach my age, who were around at that time, don't believe me, they wasn't on the front lines and on the streets. They were getting their degrees, they were matriculating through college, and that's cool, because I don't have no problem with that, as long as you produce revolutionaries. That's what teachers are supposed to do. Okay, but this is what they were doing at that time, and the Black Panther Party was on the front line. And if you don't believe me, there's a 1970 survey, NBC or CBS survey, national poll that was taken amongst Black people in 1970, and they were asked what Black leader or what organization do they admire the most, and they said the SCLC, the Black Panther Party, and the NAACP. Now, how did the Black Panther Party become number 2 between two pacifist, nonviolent organizations whose politics is radically different? It's because Black folks understood one thing, and one thing that had to stand out, that we will defend the Black community against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that we stand for our people with our lives. And they understood that. You can't say that about these pencil-pushing intellectuals that were matriculating through school in their dashikis and afros and wasn't doing jack shit but writing their thesis. So I don't want to hear that. That's why I asked who this knucklehead was, because now I'm 76. I could slap people my age and people won't say
I don't want to cause any of that, but it was Haile Garima and Sankofa Books. I mean, I was sitting right. And it was in the context of, and in fact, it was actually interesting because it was in the context, he was responding to a question I was asking him. This is 20 years ago, to be fair. But I was asking him a question about Fred Hampton and the Panthers, and I was asking specifically, would the Panthers fit within his view of maroonage? Maroonage, and because he was working on that at the time, and he said no, because the Panthers didn't create any new land or economies, they didn't run away anywhere, and then he went into this whole thing, which concluded with what I just said. He said, and that's a direct quote. So I don't know. We didn't. He didn't. He's never felt me worthy of a real conversation about that, and that's understandable too. But that was all. That was as far as the conversation went. But I was just pointing out that these things still happen.
See, he didn't think you were worthy of a real conversation. You see how I could discern character from afar, man. You see how I could discern character from afar. Anyway, don't get it twisted. That sentiment is still rife amongst a lot of Black academicians who I said played this type of role in the 60s. And they're kind of shy to do it now because of movies that come out about the Black Panthers, because young, bright-eyed people come forward, after reading the new Jim Crow and trying to get in touch with their radical history. But none of the students come and say to them, so before they ask this question, what was you doing in 1969, Professor? Oh, so I want to ask you about the Black Panther Party. If you ask that other question first, you get a whole different answer.
Well, we could come back to any of that you like, but
so let's get on to the next highlight.
Because one of the highlights here was when because again we're going through this list of,
so if you want to see the rest of that, then you'll have to go over and sub Black Power Media. And actually, I think I should read this description because it gives you a quick understanding of who we were just listening to, right? And my bad for not having read this before we started. But Dhoruba bin Wahad is a former member of the Black Panther Party, the Panther 21, and the Black Liberation Army. His role as an organizer on the Black Panther Party Central Committee put him in contact with and/or made him aware of much of what was occurring within and around the party, and was involved in his own political imprisonment of more than 19 years. He really gets into a lot of that history and that story, and it is just such an incredible discussion. And listen, what's going on right now with Black Power Media, now for those who don't know, it was originally the channel, it was Jared Ball's personal channel, I Mix What I Like. And that's how I started watching it. And he's recently teamed up with all these different voices, and like Rosa Clement, and just a number of I can't remember the other Revolutionary Radicals. Gosh darn it, I can't remember. But there's like a dozen or so people that are now contributing, and he's changed the name of the channel to Black Power Media. And since they made this new rollout, they're just cranking out incredible conversations like this. One of the more recent ones I watched was actually, let's go over to the channel and I'd like to show you. One of the recent discussions that I watched that was so amazing. This episode right here, Renegade Culture podcast. That's the but this conversation, it's a two-part video. In the first half, they talked to Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., and in the second half, they talked to Mutulu Shakur about the ongoing legacy of resistance. Holy shit, that is such a good... The whole thing is really good, but that second half of this, wow, if you want to some first-hand account of political prisoners and what they're going through, as well as some drama in relation to Tupac Shakur. I don't want to make light of it. It is such a powerful discussion about Mutulu Shakur and his long history of political imprisonment. But again, those are just two examples. This video and then what we just watched of what's going on over there with Black Power Media. And I just really highly suggest you give them a sub, and because their goal is to turn it into a 24-hour project. So 24 hours a day, they would be streaming content. They're not quite there, but they're fucking close, fam. So anyway, yeah, that is Black Power Media.
I don't slang up bang, I just smoke motherfuckers like it ain't no thing.
As a candidate, Barack Obama promised to end the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. But over the course of his term, the number of countries in which the U.S. has military involvement expanded from 4 to 7, leaving office as the only president to serve 2 full terms during war.
I just smoke motherfuckers like it ain't no thing.
Obama did pull troops out of Afghanistan and Iraq, but even as soldiers were coming home, the brand of warfare was shifted from boots on the ground to drones in the sky.
Cause I'm the E. I don't slang up bang, I just smoke motherfuckers like it ain't no thing. Cause I'm the E.
George W. Bush authorized 48 recorded drone strikes over his 8 years in office. Obama launched 52 in his first year alone.
Cause I'm the E.
You have to make decisions based not on fear, but on hard-earned wisdom.
He also authorized the killing of at least 1 U.S. citizen by drone strike.
I don't give a fuck cause I keep belling. Yo, what the fuck are they yelling? 6-4 with the gangster lean. 6-4 with the gangster lean. 6-4 with the gangster lean. 6-4 with the cause I'm the E. I don't slang up bang, I just smoke motherfuckers like it ain't no thing.
Drone warfare is difficult to track because the Pentagon won't distinguish between unmanned and traditional airstrikes in areas of active hostility. But last year, the administration released long-awaited information about drone strikes in 3 countries where the U.S. doesn't operate traditional air campaigns.
With the 6-4 gangster lean, the 6-4 with the gangster lean, cause 6-4 with the gangster lean, 6-4 with the gangster I just smoke motherfuckers like it ain't no thing, cause I'm the...
But under Obama, 473 strikes had caused roughly 2,500 deaths through the end of 2015. But tallies from independent watchdog groups put the number of drone strikes since the start of Obama's term at 540 and suggest the overall death toll may be nearer to 4,000.
With the gangster lean, 6'4" with the whole just smoke motherfuckers like it ain't no thing, cause I'm the...
Simply put, these strikes have saved lives.